Welcome to There's Sometimes a Buggy, Irresponsible Opinions about Classic Film, Christmas 2025 edition, where we ask the question, what does Christmas have to do with sex? I'm Elise.
I'm Dave. S&xMas, our special subject for this week, will include discussions of Eyes Wide Shut and Elle. After that, stay tuned for some more hilarity with Mikio Naruse and the film Wife.
There's not a lot of sex happening there.
These films are too new to have been discussed at all or referenced in our trusty coffee table books.
Even though Eyes Wide Shut is 26 years old.
Just makes us feel all the more decrepit as another year comes to an end. I'll just pull a little bit of introductory material from today's Cinephiles coffee table book, Letterboxd. Here's their little summary. After Dr. Bill Harford's wife, Alice, admits to having sexual fantasies about a man she met, Bill becomes obsessed with having a sexual encounter.
Well, he does a very poor job of it.
He discovers an underground sexual group and attends one of their meetings, and quickly discovers that he is in over his head.
True.
The cast list: Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, Sidney Pollack, Marie Richardson, Rade Gerbegiza, Todd Field, a whole bunch of other people.
You're just going to stop there.
The director, Stanley Kubrick, of course. This was his final film.
He died of a heart attack right after screening it for Cruise and Kidman, apparently because they had to sign nudity releases.
It's a highly regarded film, although at the time I think people were scratching their heads about it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to scratch your head about.
That's true. But didn't it receive mixed reviews?
Yeah, I think so. I actually revisited some of the reviews. There does seem to have been a feeling that it was a weak swan song. I mean, one of the things, this is a deliberate pairing of movies on this episode, and one of the things it has in common with Elle is that it's treating sexuality in a dark and intentionally provocative way, and the result among serious movie critics, such as to be found at The New Yorker and The Guardian, was to be very uncomfortable and to express the discomfort. I'm talking about Eyes Wide Shut here, and to express that discomfort in terms of ridicule. We'll have to talk about the reception of Elle when we get to it. That seems to have been pretty universally praised, but you can still find some snide comments from The New Yorker.
Did you see this film at the theater?
I was getting divorced at the time it was released. I remember suggesting to my ex-husband, well, soon-to-be ex-husband, that we should go to the theater and watch it together as a fun friend thing to do. And he said that sounds like a terrible idea, and so it never happened. I'm not sure if I went to the theater and watched it, or if I saw it soon afterwards. How about you?
I didn't go to see it in the cinema, but it wasn't that long afterwards that I saw it on home video. I still have never seen it in the theater. I would like to.
Yeah, it's certainly a movie that seems like it can only have its full effect in the cinema.
I liked it quite a bit immediately, which was a strange feeling for me because I never have been a Kubrick fan.
Yeah, me too. I felt similarly.
So if people thought, oh, this is a bad way for Kubrick to go out, I was like, oh, maybe Kubrick was about to start getting good and now he's dead. This is horrible.
Now, Dave, this is interesting because you like both of these movies, despite the fact that illicit, controversial, dark, violent sexuality is not usually your favorite thing in movies. Of course, you are a David Lynch fan. So what do you think it was about, starting with Eyes Wide Shut, that made this appeal to you?
Well, to me, this seemed like, okay, Stanley Kubrick just made a Woody Allen movie?
What? How? This does not in any way say Woody Allen to me, although apparently at one point, because Kubrick wanted to adapt the novel by Arthur Schnitzler, frequently translated as Dream Story, since the late 60s, and this movie, you can see it fitting in with the late 60s art cinema mood. But apparently at one point in his thinking about the film, he wanted it to be a comedy, and Woody Allen was one of the people considered to play the Cruise role.
I don't see how you can not see that this has a lot of the characteristics of a Woody Allen film. Obviously, it's not like a movie that Woody Allen would make, but it has many of the same plot elements and many of the same milieu.
How so? You're going to have to expand on that a bit.
Well, we've just watched a whole bunch of Woody Allen movies this year. It's set amongst the well-to-do elite of New York City. It's a story about a relationship breaking up, principally over jealousy.
They don't break up, though.
Yeah, but it's in danger.
For sure.
And in a lot of Woody Allen movies, they don't break up either. But there's a lot of tension there, and it's usually coming from, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, it's the neurotic fantasy life of the male character that is being explored.
I have no idea if it's relevant in this context that one of the most significant departures from the source novel, which I read the Wikipedia plot summary, and it's pretty close, other than this and one other very interesting departure. One of the often commented on changes from the novella is that the couple in the novella, which is from 1926 and set in Vienna, during Mardi Gras, by the way, is that the couple in the novella is Jewish. See, I thought of it more because of Cruise's character's descent into the abyss over sexual jealousy. I thought of it more in the context of something like Lost Highway. I even wondered if there was some influence. One of Patricia Arquette's names in Lost Highway is Alice.
It's got some resonances with David Lynch as well. The Cruise character here is kind of from beginning to end, he sees himself as a good guy.
Sure. I think this is a really great performance from Tom Cruise in particular.
Well, this is a good era for Cruise. He had just made Magnolia right before this.
So yeah, he's absolutely playing it like a man who feels like he's a good guy, and it feels a little beleaguered by that, particularly considering everything that's happening to him. I think it's important that you do feel like he is a good guy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He feels sort of comforting, starting with his, initial big good guy moment that he knows is such a heroic moment that it becomes part of this fantasy he weaves, if it is indeed a fantasy, about a woman coming to rescue him.
Well, he's got such a great bedside manner with overdose victims. They're willing to give up their lives for him.
Overdosing sex workers, in particular. Just sticking with the Woody Allen comparison for the moment, I don't know if you knew that this movie was almost entirely shot in England, with New York being recreated.
Pretty convincing movie New York. So this is a young, upwardly mobile couple, played by a famous real-life couple on the verge of disintegration themselves. They've got wonderful little kid that they are spoiling as best they can. All the delightful Christmas settings of New York City, incredible toylands of department stores. Things couldn't be more perfect.
One of the questions that's relevant to this episode is why was the setting changed from Mardi Gras to Christmas and not, say, Halloween, since in many ways this has the feeling of a horror movie? Why is it important that Christmas is the backdrop? And I don't think the answer is just irony.
No, but it's got to be a big part of it, right? The heightened contrast. But let's go into your theory.
Well, I think the Christmas setting, it's not a theory, it's just, I guess, what I think the effect is. This is supposed to be a dream story. Cruise's character seems to wander into a dream, and many, many dream-like things happen to him that night after Nicole Kidman tells him her crazy story that she seems to want to skewer him with about sexual passion for another man.
Well, he's really nettled her with his sense of complacent confidence in her that he expresses in a most prosaic way.
I don't know what sets her off, that she's feeling guilty because she wanted to sleep with this other man who was coming on with her and she didn't have a chance to, and so she wants to really hit him with this realization that women are not naturally faithful. He's been living a dream up to that point where he just consciously, at least complacently, thinks that the average man might want to stray. Not me, though, because I'm a hero. But women don't even think about that sort of thing seriously. So he plunges into this dream world, and she, importantly, later recounts a dream. So she seems to be dealing in the matter of dreams and fantasies in this movie as well. So I feel like Christmas wraps this dark sexual story up in some kind of dream-like magic. This is the first time I'm thinking of this, but maybe not completely dissimilar to the Christmas magic of Fanny and Alexander.
And the Nutcracker, which is referenced in this film. It's a night when quotidian things take on a completely new aspect and become larger than life. In the prescribed version of Christmas, these wonderful things are visions of sugar plums. Here he's having visions of creepy sugar daddies in the highest echelons of New York society and also in the lowest.
True. I thought the sort of things that he's going through and the way that nymphomaniac women and sexually exploitative men just keep popping out of the woodwork all of a sudden.
Throwing themselves at him.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Cruise's sexual charisma plays an important role in the movie, for sure, even if he doesn't get naked as much as Nicole Kidman. That put me in mind of Orson Welles' The Trial.
I can see that.
Where women keep throwing themselves at him, weird, sexually avaricious women in implausible circumstances. Keep throwing themselves at Kay, but nothing ever actually happens, finally.
For one reason or another.
But you can't actually imagine, in Kafka, although you can easily imagine it in David Lynch, all of this climaxing in voyeuristically witnessing a satanic sex orgy. Now, in the novel, apparently in a nod to, I'm sure, the Gothic genre and to the Marquis de Sade, participants in the orgy are not wearing masks. That detail came from the Mardi Gras element of the story. Rather, they are dressed as monks and nuns. What Kubrick does with this still retains that element of warped Catholicism, but pushes it more in a direction of what we now think of as Satanism, which is just inverted Catholicism, right?
Yeah, very ritual, heavy Gregorian chant stuff going on.
So you know what that was? Which is awesome. Like, the music is absolutely awesome in that sequence.
It's like Rammstein Gregorian chant.
It did sound like Rammstein from
Lost Highway.
A similar sequence, the Hell Hotel in Lost Highway.
But the stuff that's going on in Lost Highway is much more horrific. That's one of the weirdest things about this movie, I guess, if you're going to try to treat it as the ultimate in depravity. There's actually nothing that horrifying going on. It's public sex, but the worst thing that happens in the whole movie is the costume shop guy selling his very clearly child to whoever offers him enough money.
Well, hold on. I was going to talk about the music in this scene. It's by Jocelyn Pook. Some of the music we hear there was based on her composition Backwards Priests, which features a Romanian Orthodox divine liturgy recorded in a church in Romania, played backwards.
Okay.
Musical pieces chosen for their unnerving quality that you can read about on the Wikipedia page. Okay, true. It's a pretty banal orgy on the face of it, but this is the Jamesian quality of it, even though Henry James would never do anything exactly like this either. But the horror is underneath the surface. It's the hint, actually I think we can pretty much say it's definite, that the women are being sex trafficked. There's either a theater element in which they're pretending that human sacrifice is happening, that these women are literally disposable, or that is actually happening. So that's pretty fucking horrific.
They do seem to have killed at least one person that night.
Unless it's all coincidence and Tom Cruise's fantasy. The woman who warns him is not played by
Same actress.
Same actress. But, of course, it's a movie, and there's enough physical similarity, and we're confused enough that we could still give the movie the reading that it is the same woman.
It's depraved, for sure, but it's depraved primarily in the way that it's just taking all this religious nonsense seriously and inverting it. That's what seems so grotesque about it.
And the sex trafficking and the murder.
We don't know for sure that that's even happening. These could be well-paid, happy sex workers. We don't know.
Except people keep warning Tom Cruise to get out of there like his life is at stake.
Yeah, because he's not part of the club.
But what are they protecting in this club? This is the $1 million secret. And I mean, I guess that is the movie's interest. The fact that there seems to be some unspeakable dark heart of eroticism that isn't representable. And it's a good thing it's not. It's a good thing.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Marquis de Sade's stories literally being depicted in front of my eyes. That never works. That never actually, for me anyway, if someone actually tries to achieve that on film, it's horrifying, but not in the right way that is suggestive and compelling.
Well, no, we saw that Lily Palmer Marquis de Sade movie, and that was really subpar.
Thinking of something more ambitious and admired, like In the Realm of the Senses, which you and I both didn't like.
No.
And, this is something I've been thinking about in relation to these two movies, and that a lot of critics talked about in relation to Eyes Wide Shut, which is trying to take sex seriously in art outside of the realm of pornography, whatever that means, trying to make a distinction. But clearly this movie is not pornography. Well, I say clearly, but maybe there would be a time in cinematic history where the consensus would be that yes, it is pornography.
Well, what rating did it get in the United States?
Oh, well, this is part of the lore of the movie. In the United States, to avoid the NC-17 rating, Warner Brothers had to create pixelated figures to stand in front of the fucking people in the orgy scene.
There's no frontal nudity in the movie. I think that got you an X rating.
Yeah, so the penis is the most...
The taboo of taboos.
The greatest, well, the erect penis is the greatest visual representation of eroticism, apparently. What are you going to do? You're going to go inside the vagina? What are you going to see? Can't see anything in there. It's a dark cave. I'm getting very Camille Paglia here.
The worst thing in the movie is this costume shop guy selling his daughter. It's horrifying, but it's also played as a joke.
Oh, yeah, it's played as a horrifying comedy. This style, and that whole sequence particularly made me think of Wells' The Trial.
Yeah, it's Twilight Zone-y. He's like, do you hear something? He draws attention to his own, or maybe it's all being done as part of Tom Cruise's phantasmagoria. He has to find out because it's all about his dark journey. Otherwise, the stuff is going on all the time, but he doesn't know about it, and it wouldn't be of interest to the film if he doesn't find out.
Again, that is the worst thing that happens in the movie that we know for certain happens, although it's so dreamlike that that's hard to say. There's this weird encounter with
Domino.
And
when he revisits Domino with his cake, he is informed that she has just been confirmed to be HIV positive.
There's all sorts of details planted to indicate that she is a college student, a sociology student. She's got textbooks on her shelves, who's, I guess, turning tricks to pay the rent, picking up people who look like Tom Cruise. That in itself feels like a pretty highly fictionalized detail. Other things critics commented on, would Tom Cruise be making house calls in the late 20th century?
Sure, none of it seems very realistic. It just amplifies this sense of him as the Boy Scout as upper-class Manhattan doctor, which is essential to the film's vision of its protagonist.
If he is a good guy, a Boy Scout, who is aware of it, and to some extent actually is what he thinks he is, would that be in conflict with him aspiring to the power of Sidney Pollack?
Do you think he is aspiring?
I don't know. Some have read it that way. Is he upwardly mobile? Is that why he wants to go to this orgy? Or is he a complete innocent who's had the dark side of his sexuality stirred for the first time, and he appears at this orgy almost in a childlike position, with the Jamesian feeling of sex being viewed from the position of a scared but curious child?
That's definitely how I saw it. Deeply unsettled by these revelations that come to him via Nicole Kidman, he does start to think, am I missing something? Is everyone else getting a lot more nasty fun out of sex than I am? And he just can't stop thinking about it. I mean, in one sense, you could definitely say this is the most puritanical film ever made, because it makes every form of sex outside of wedlock with someone you love seem horrible.
That's James.
It's also got a real Hawthornian aspect to it. I remember when I first saw it, I was deep in my 19th century American literary phase, which I've never left in some ways. I was thinking, okay, is everyone gonna wind up being under the masks at this party, right? Like young Goodman Brown.
Yeah. Well, they are.
Well, a lot of the people are. Nicole Kidman's not there, but that's what I was thinking. She's going to be one of them. Because in Young Goodman Brown, if people haven't read the story, he goes out to the middle of the woods.
Don't spoil Young Goodman Brown.
I'm going to. Thinking that, okay, he's got this terrible secret, he just must go and dance with the devil, and he finds out that every single person that he knows is at this satanic orgy, including his beloved Faith. And
I just need to add about Henry James, or inserted to what you were saying, even sex with someone you're married to and profoundly in love with, as in The Sacred Fount, is ultimately evil in Henry James. Love itself, vampirism.
It's definitely verging on that in this movie too. Not in Cruise's mind until things start to get dire. He's been living in a fool's paradise, or so we are led to believe. There's no real counter indications that this is all a pose, or the things that he's saying to Nicole Kidman he doesn't really believe.
There are other indications, of course, in the movie. Talk about dreams and fairy tales and magic. The two models who want to take him to the end of the rainbow. And he says, sure, you can take me there, depending on where that ends up.
That's not a moment where it seems like dark temptation temptation is opening up and he is going to fall in.
He's kind of passively going along with it, though.
But probably not that far. I mean, we see he doesn't go along with anyone that he meets in this whole movie.
And he gives Domino the money anyway. Although it's a phone call that takes him away from her. But he does seem to feel like he averted disaster there.
Yeah, and if it's all a dream, then it's all a narrative that he's constructed. And he set it up this way so that every flirtation with actual infidelity winds up being thwarted somehow.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's all a dream. It's more like it's a fictional story in which this character is plunged into a psychological abyss that takes the form of this nighttime dream odyssey in fake New York.
Sure, but it's all constructed on psychological lines that we are supposed to recognize as belonging to this Tom Cruise character. And it makes sense that when he goes out in search of the supposed deeper truths about sex, he's only going to experience them vicariously and as a threat to his good guy persona.
Sure, and kind of how his whole world and personality could crumble if he yielded to the dark, shadowy temptations, right?
Yeah, well, if he listened to his wife, I don't see how he could continue being a doctor, right? She's talking about, you're squeezing this woman's breast in the examination room. Aren't you getting some excitement out of that? And he says that he isn't.
But before she even asks that, we see him in the hospital with a woman who looks exactly like one of the women from the orgies. Skinny, long-legged woman with big breasts. Difficult not to feel anything erotic in that context, but...
Yeah, but that is definitely what we are asking of doctors, and he seems to think that he's been living up to that.
So despite the fact that this was based on a story by an Austrian author of the early 20th century, who was admired by Freud, and I'm sure the feeling was mutual, what we're saying is that, particularly with the casting of Tom Cruise, and some of that is maybe fortuitous, because apparently Cruise was just cast because Warner Brothers wanted Kubrick to use a star in the movie.
This is Kubrick's first movie in, 13 years? Full Metal Jacket is the last one from the late 80s.
Yeah, 12 years. And apparently he decided on Cruise. The little bit I read, who knows if this is the full truth, but he decided on Cruise because he liked his performance in Born on the 4th of July. But Cruise gives it this American innocence that turns it into a wholly American story about the relationship to sexuality that feels completely consistent with this James Hawthorne lineage we've been talking about.
Quite a stroke of luck. And you get Nicole Kidman in the bargain. I'm not always the biggest fan of Nicole Kidman, but she's perfect in this film. They have some believably nasty interaction.
Yeah, she's a committed actress. I mean, the other major change that I noticed from the plot description of the story on Wikipedia is that instead of having a dream about laughing at her husband while she's gangbanged by hundreds of men, in the story, the wife dreams that her husband is being crucified.
Oh my god.
And she's on the side of the crucifiers.
Well, see, both of those feel like they have nothing to do with the wife character, right? They're about the paranoid fears of the husband.
Well, that's what's most like Lost Highway.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't really a character.
I can believe that she would have these feelings and dreams possibly about the sailor, but then fucking millions of men and laughing at her husband does not feel like an authentic experience that any woman would have as a fantasy, right? They would just forget about their husband maybe, but why would they make such an important point of laughing at their husband? But the husband worrying that her fantasy life is entirely revolving around making fun of him, that is very believable.
Yeah, she seems demonic in this movie.
Well, you give her a little pot and things get out of hand quickly.
I guess if I have one reservation about the movie that makes it not a favorite is that Kubrick is not a very dreamlike director. It could be so much more dreamlike if I compare it to, of course, anything by David Lynch, but also even Wells's The Trial, where he was very consciously going for a dreamlike effect, and it works, and it's about as close as anyone I think is ever going to get to adapting Kafka for cinema.
But I don't think that that's too big of a problem in this case because, as we've been saying, it's not really a dream. It's actually happening in some sense.
But it could feel so much more hallucinatory.
Yeah, but I don't think he wants you to, because these are things that Tom Cruise is actually experiencing, at least on one level, in the real world, and the consequences are going to be felt in the real world, and he's going to be crying in his wife's arms at the end, telling her about it. It's not a favorite film of mine, although it's definitely my favorite Kubrick movie.
And the snide New Yorker takedown by David Denby, where he said a lot of things I agreed with in criticism of Eyes Wide Shut, and then ruined it all by praising the Blair Witch Project.
Oh my god.
Not a favorite of either of ours, on purely cinematic grounds. He did say maybe someone like Bergman would be more suited to this material. Everything seems so abstract in this movie. Do we even really believe, like, both Kidman's provocations and Cruise's jealousy seem so abstract. Like nobody, not them and not the director, are really feeling them the way you would really feel them in a Bergman movie, but maybe that's why Kubrick is exactly right for this, and certainly Tom Cruise is exactly right for this picture, and that's what makes it its own thing.
Yeah, because he's entertaining ideas about sexual depravity. It's not really about sexual depravity itself.
Or even sexual jealousy. It is. It's a movie of ideas.
Yeah, and it really succeeds. I do like it more each time I see it.
So shall we move on to Elle?
Alright, let's go to Letterboxd for our little summary. When Michelle, the CEO of a gaming software company, is attacked in her home by an unknown assailant, she refuses to let it alter her precisely ordered life. She manages crises involving family, all the while becoming engaged in a game of cat and mouse with her stalker. I'm not sure if I find that all that effective a summary, but...
This was also a movie made after a long break in feature filmmaking by the director.
The director is Paul Verhoeven, and our cast list: Isabelle Huppert, Laurent Lafitte, Anne Consigny, Charles Berling, Virginie Efira, Judith Maigre. Oh, and Christian Berkel.
We don't know who any of these people are. Only Isabelle Huppert. So Verhoeven did want a star for this movie. Well, Isabelle Huppert is a star, but he wanted an American star.
Did he want to make the film in English?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, he absolutely did, but nobody would make it. He said he knew Jennifer Jason Leigh would make it, and he'd be happy to make it with her, but he specifically wanted a star. I don't know if for the budget, or just because it was his idea for the film to have a star in this role.
Well, he worked with Jennifer Jason Leigh in Flesh Plus Blood, which could have been a title for this movie too.
And he basically called all American actresses cowards for not being willing to take this role. He was like, it's true, the complaints, there really aren't enough good roles for women in film, and here I've got one, and nobody would take it.
Well, I'm glad Isabelle Huppert got the role, because she is amazing in this movie.
I haven't seen her in enough movies. She's like the Nicolas Cage of art movies. She just keeps making movies. Not all of them are that good, and I can't keep up.
We will be doing an actor spotlight on Isabelle Huppert in 2026, so we'll be watching 6 of her movies.
But many seem to think this is one of the major performances of her entire career. I have seen that other extremely provocative erotic movie, or I don't know if you want to call it an erotic movie about sexual perversion, The Piano Teacher. Another great role, but nothing like this role, completely different. I liked this even better than the first time I saw it. We haven't seen it since it came out. We did see it in the theater, I think at TIFF Lightbox.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you like it better, the same?
I liked it an awful lot when we first saw it, but if possible, it increased in my estimation.
Weirdly enough, it is a movie that is just really enjoyable to watch.
Well, she's just really fun.
And the screenplay is really rich.
There's a lot of funny stuff, and some of it amusing in a very dark way, and other parts of it are just actually mirthful, while all of this horror is unfolding.
Yeah. Verhoeven was worried about this movie being controversial, and it wasn't at all, and I've been trying to think to myself, like I said, it was pretty much universally praised, although a few major critics did freak out and call it misogynistic, etc. Let's talk about that.
It came out right before the Me Too movement, right?
2016, I don't remember exactly when.
It really got into full swing during Trump's first term, which started in 2017.
But this stuff was still considered pretty controversial at the time, and Verhoeven was worried, and no American actress would take the movie, and I've been trying to think, why was there no controversy? And I think it's pretty obvious. It's because this is a French art movie.
Yeah.
It's not Basic Instinct, it's not Showgirls, it's not an American...
Yeah, the context matters.
Trying to pretend that it's trash or a thriller with stars or anything else. So only people watching this and reviewing it are the kind of people who would understand the movie. And as Isabelle Huppert has said, if you understand the movie, there's nothing controversial about it. But still the perception persists to the extent that it really colored my first viewing, despite the fact that I liked it. And my memory of the movie, the reception that it got, there was still a lot of talk about this somehow being simultaneously a movie about a woman who masochistically enjoys being raped by a man and who gets the upper hand on her rapist. And the thing is that neither of those things exactly happens in the movie.
No, one of the strangest dynamics ever put on film between two people. I mean, they're definitely both having trouble acknowledging some aspects of their sexuality.
Okay, tell me how you see that.
He doesn't seem to be able to enjoy sex unless he puts on a ski mask and invades someone else's home.
Yeah, he can't deal with consent.
She does seem to be realizing that she's getting something out of being completely passive during sex.
You think so? See, that's not really how I saw it this time. It's true, her howls of horror, I guess maybe they're orgasmic after she's been beat up and raped, but it's ambiguous what happens in the basement there, and he himself is looking at her like, I can't even figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? As he's walking away, he's like, what is that? Is she orgasming? Or is she in pain? Like, I don't know.
Well, she's definitely in pain. I mean, she's bleeding afterwards in the bathtub.
Well, that's the first time. I'm talking about the basement.
Right.
After supposedly she's enjoying her masochistic relationship. I really wasn't sure that that was what was going on. The way I saw it this time was more like a parallel to her character in The Piano Teacher, actually. Her character in The Piano Teacher is a sadomasochist, but in her own sexual relations. I mean, she's capable of doing sadistic things to other people that turn her on, but in her own sexual relationships with men, she's purely a masochist. She's also a piano teacher and a brilliant pianist, a very repressed woman, and a younger student falls madly in love with her. They start a relationship, and once he finds out how perverted she is, he keeps trying to persuade her to just enter into a normal, loving, sexual relationship. And she can't. She just absolutely cannot do that. Until he gets so frustrated with the situation, because he's obsessed with her, he gets so frustrated with the situation that he actually beats her up, which is of course also not what she wanted, to actually completely lose control of the situation. And I saw this relationship with the rapist in Elle this time as something more like that, where she is trying to get him to enter into a normal relationship. They can talk to each other reasonably when he's not raping her, and she thinks that she can just somehow, if she tries often enough, she can bring that into the sexual part of the relationship, but every time he can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw it that way. It seems like it could be tending in that direction, but when she finds out that he is the man under the mask, it totally changes the way she interacts with him. I mean, she was falling for him until that point, in a more normal kind of way that you'd expect to see in a movie, but once she stabs him through the hand and she gets a chance to get his mask off, at that point, that's where this gulf opens up.
Well, first of all, she screams him out of the house.
Sure, she wants him out, but she didn't report it to the police when she wasn't even sure who he was, and she just didn't want the trouble associated with an investigation. But now, all she has to do is say, police, come and get this man. He lives across the street from me.
Except, as everybody knows from Me Too, the majority of rapes are not reported for a variety of psychological and practical reasons.
But this is one that it would be an open and shut case. As it is, when they finally kill him in the house, there's no problem with the police. This is where the abyss opens up between who they see themselves as and who they are as sexual agents. They can't discuss it. She's not trying to persuade him to be normal after that. They're just talking about anything other than sex. And they're trying to act like it doesn't exist. And then he invites her into the basement and attacks her again. She has to be expecting that.
I don't know. I just didn't see it that way this time. I feel like so much that's going on is ambiguous. I feel like it's not at all clear that she's just decided, hey, I like being raped.
No, I don't think that she likes it. I feel like a lot of this movie, again, this is not a sex-positive movie in my estimation. I I think that she is coming to the gradual realization that she hates sex, with men anyway.
Well, that would be very Verhoeven-ish. That would also make sense of the ending.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, okay, let's just take things to the most horrible extreme, but this is what all sex is like. And that's why after she has had sex with the rapist and she knows who he is, then she goes back and has her final sexual encounter with Robert while she just lies there.
That's a
And
really...
he's like, this is amazing. You've never done it like this before. I love it. And she's like, well, we're not doing it ever again, so fuck off.
Well, he tells her, what a wonderful idea for you to play dead.
Yeah, exactly. And she's clearly doing it as a kind of, I mean, it's a joke only for herself, like a very morbid joke. She's like, okay, well, this is what sex with all men is like, whether they're attacking me ostensibly or not. And I just don't like it.
It is a very interesting take because, well, I haven't heard anyone say it. It pulls together a lot of threads in the movie that otherwise seem random.
I mean, she's been behaving horribly toward her best friend.
Yeah, but here's something we really parsed at the time, Dave. I remember us discussing her relationship with her best friend. Why did she betray her, and why does the girlfriend ultimately not care? Well, ultimately, it doesn't matter between them because men don't matter.
That's right.
And the movie is about how men matter so hugely in a woman's life, right? Because of their status and the status that they can confer on women. And on the other hand, just don't matter at all. So you can see how he went from this to Bernadette as a kind of Brechtian movie of ideas that doesn't work that well as a drama.
No, it's not nearly as good as this.
It's very didactic, whereas this is a movie. This is a really interesting, dense, novelistic screenplay, big cast, a bunch of stuff going on, and an extraordinary central performance, right?
There's a direct link here with Showgirls, which is ultimately about a lot of the same stuff.
And it's not that she doesn't like having sex with men. She doesn't like having sex with patriarchy. This is about there being something fundamentally wrong in typical gender relations. Of course, that's of a piece with Basic Instinct as well. So we may have identified the ultimate theme of Paul Verhoeven's film, which is women needing to learn that lesbianism is the better way.
At least until we get some of these gender problems fixed.
There are other interesting things going on in their relationship, such as when she gets into this accident, and there's this theme in the movie of animals, trying to save animals, which I guess is a projection of her vulnerability that she can't in any other way acknowledge. So she swerves to not hit this deer and ends up damaging herself, injuring her leg.
The bird.
And the bird. She goes through, what do you do when you're in a car accident and you've injured yourself? You call a man, right, to come help you. And so she goes through a list of men and nobody's available, and so she's like, well, there's this other guy
who's been attacking me.
Well, no, there's this other guy I'm in a relationship with. However he may see it.
And he is the right guy for this task.
And he very romantically takes her out of the car and carries her. This is the negotiation between them. He also wants a normal romantic relationship, I feel like. That is one of the things that they want from each other. But again, he cannot
Well, when it gets sexual, he can't do it.
Yeah.
They can't do it. I mean, there's a lot of intimacy between them as long as they're not having sex.
And there's this wonderful moment, right, where it ties into her relationship with her father, because you see this woman in all these relationships, and Isabelle Huppert said this is one of the reasons that she really wanted to play this role, that you see this woman with so many facets in all of these different relationships, with her son and his wife.
His crazy wife.
Her
mother and her gigolo boyfriend that she's disgusted by. Her best friend and her stupid husband that she's been sleeping with.
And, of course, the next door neighbors.
Yeah, and her husband, who seems like a good guy too, except that he hit her, and that's why she left him.
Yeah, so I feel like a sexual masochist who wants to be raped is not someone who'd leave her husband because he hit her, who otherwise seems like she was pretty happy with the relationship.
She does get to pepper spray him in the face.
She does it quite a lot to him. She also destroys his car.
That is one of the funniest things I've seen in any movie. She just backs into his car, destroys the front, and just does the ultimate French shrug and walks into the party. And we don't know at the time that it's her ex-husband's car. She's not apologetic in any sense. She's just like, oh, it hardly shows.
Yeah, and I mean, he takes all of this from her too.
Yeah, well, I guess he feels like he deserves it. And he does deserve it, frankly.
Right, but I was talking about her father. And there is this one abysmal this moment in the movie where she thinks, oh, I'm starting to develop this relationship with my rapist, who's also the next door neighbor I've been flirting with, who's going to be the next married man I sleep with on my list, because I can only have relationships with married men now. I can find out about evil from him. But she can't, because he can do evil. But like anyone who does evil, he has no idea. He cannot articulate, he cannot give her any wisdom or any insight into what is driving him to be this way. I mean, I think that's another thing that she's trying to get out of these encounters. She's never going to be able to understand what drives people to behave this way. And she even goes back to her own behavior as a child and says, you know, my father was burning down the house and I started to help him throw the furniture on the fire. You just get caught up in it. You get caught up in the destruction. It's fun.
Her mother tells her throughout the film, these defining acts of violence and horror, they define the perpetrators for others, but not for the evildoer themselves. So that's the link between the father and the next door neighbor. Both of them have done horrifying things, but they clearly wouldn't think of themselves that way. This is just an off moment that I have to give into occasionally. I have to kill everyone in the neighborhood, but then I go back to being your dad, except you can't see me anymore because I'm incarcerated. And the next door neighbor, he has these moments where he must go out and give into this horrifying urge. But the movie is saying this is not what he is at his core. This is just another aspect of his personality. And I think that is an innovation of Verhoeven as well, an unsettling one, certainly, because I think people like to believe that a monster is all monster.
Well, I mean, when he says, kind of apologetically, no, it doesn't work for me any other way. Has to be this way, beating you up and raping you.
For anything else going on in his life, he's a great guy. He's like the Tom Cruise character in Eyes Wide Shut.
But what I was going to say is, this is just how his sexuality works, and the movie is saying that sex is this force, much like Eyes Wide Shut, is this incomprehensible force that we are compelled to act on, and it's impersonal.
And it's compartmentalized, right?
So compartmentalized.
A very anti-Freudian insight. This is not the defining thing about this guy. It puts him at odds with society and the law and moral good sense, and it winds up getting him killed. You can't reduce him to that.
Let's get back to why is there Christmas in this movie beyond irony? Certainly there's a lot of irony involving Catholic imagery.
A child with a mysterious father.
Michelle, Huppert's character, hates Catholicism and is an atheist because of her insano father. Might have been anyway, but she's a pretty committed atheist because of this. But again, a Lynchian thing about the movie is that I feel like evil has a metaphysical dimension in it, and it's about wanting to understand it, to fold it into a worldview that makes sense, realizing that that's impossible.
An unbridgeable gulf that separates these characters as they generally are and as they see themselves and as they behave in certain awful moments. And you can't actually synthesize all of that into a comprehensible person.
Huppert's performance, on a first viewing I just found this character chilly, but on a second viewing it seems more like someone who is visibly falling apart, but is dissociated the entire time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, she has been through an almost incomprehensible series of tragedies in her life. I mean, starting with her father's freak out and her unwitting role in burning up the evidence of his mass murder. I mean, she's a tabloid figure hated by all of France.
Because of this juxtaposition of evil and innocence in this photograph.
She's tried to lean into this by marketing these horrible games, allowing people to live out their most evil thoughts. They're making this Cthulhu game.
Might be a social good. Maybe the vast majority are sublimating their most horrifying sexual urges through popular culture and art.
Her biggest fan at the gaming company, one of the engineers, he is revealed to be the designer of this Isabelle Huppert video. She had tasked him with ferreting out the creator, and, you know, it's him. I mean, the movie doesn't present him as a horrible monster, right? I mean, mean, he's just a goofy guy and he's upset that she found out. He put her face on the female figure in the game, and Isabelle Huppert has been urging them to make the degradation of this character more and more intense. While that's all going on, you think that there's some connection, that the game was designed by the guy that's been attacking her. And then that all just gets separated out. She makes him take his clothes off and she's like, oh no, he didn't have a penis that looked like that, so it's not you. Okay, you can keep your job, just stop being such an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, all around her are men behaving very badly or failing to be men. One of the most interesting arcs is her relationship with her son, how she gradually, she gets more and more and more frustrated with him, but gradually comes to the understanding. And he nearly attacks her at one point too, because she is just so brazenly being a complete cunt to him. Seemingly men often take that as an invitation to get violent. She eventually really comes to understand him.
He's been putting up with everything this crazy girlfriend throws at him because he wants to be a dad.
Yeah. And I mean, that's meaningful to her. His whole identity is based clearly not on achievements or accomplishments.
No.
But on the possibility that he could be a good father. And he is the one who ultimately snaps her out of what seems to be a suicidal course.
Yeah, he comes in and beats the rapist to death with a pipe.
And it ends the spell.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, this is what you could have and should have done several instances ago. Instead of which she kept trying to do something with this relationship. And I think she has so many motivations in what she's trying to do to it that everything we've mentioned comes into play.
Yeah, and it is a way that she is trying to come to terms with her feelings about sex with men, but it's also a way in which she is trying to understand how a man that she sees as good can be like this. The same dynamic that was unfolding with her father, as she tells us. Her dad was perfect until one day he went around and killed like 25 people in their neighborhood.
Children. And what can we say about Isabelle Huppert's performance? Is it right to say that her character has accurate contempt for everybody that she encounters?
Yeah, but it's contempt in a lot of cases leavened with a lot of love.
Leavened in pretty much every case. Like her relationship with her mother is the most complicated love.
Yeah, her ex-husband, I really like their scenes together, and sure, she feels like she's got the right to destroy his car and not be that apologetic when she pepper sprays him, but also she seems to really care about him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how Verhoeven does these things, but he does make that seem like a good human interaction. I mean, Verhoeven and the actors, obviously.
In her unfailing projection of wit and intelligence, she's kind of like the Elizabeth Bennet of rape movies.
You could stereotype this dissociated girl power career woman, but I don't think that that's accurate at all.
Because she is too, in this way that Harold Bloom talks about novel heroines, and I guess that's why Elizabeth Bennet came to mind, she's just too accurate in her perception. And that's what Huppert manages to convey in a way that is nevertheless really witty and amusing the whole time. And yet despite that, she's still really fucked up and going down a bad path.
And we can't forget her incredible scene of masturbating while watching her neighbor carry manger statues around.
Yeah, that seems to lead directly to Benedetta as well.
That's probably the only unambiguously enjoyable sex act we see in the movie.
Voyeuristic masturbation?
And I'm sure Paul Verhoeven thinks that is the way to go. But the note that it ends on, we've touched on it earlier in our discussion, but it's worth re-emphasizing that this whole movie, everything that's happened has been in part about bringing these two friends back together who have kind of had a wall built between them by the weird behavior of Isabelle Huppert.
It's kind of a patriarchal narrative move, but I feel like when her son effectively protects her in the way that obviously her father did not, that this is, like I said, a breaking of the spell in some way, and she can move on from these unhealthy relationships she's been having with men. So on the one hand, she can move on from this attempt to understand her father's evil through this horrifying relationship, because he's dead now. And on the other hand, she can feel that her son is going to be okay, and he's not going to be an eternal little boy that she has to look after. You see what I mean? By him parenting her in this way, by killing a rapist. And maybe that sets her up for this walking off into the sunset with her girlfriend, whether they're going to ever succeed in having sex or not.
No.
They can also have a better relationship now.
All right, well, Fear and Moviegoing in Toronto. We saw Wife, part of the ongoing Naruse retrospective at the Lightbox. There'll be plenty more of these to come, but this week there was only one. And this is a Naruse film that we had not seen before. How did you feel about Wife?
You go first.
Well, it had a different quality from many of the other ones that we've seen. Starring Mieko Takamine. Of course, she's paired up with Ken Uehara, who we've seen in many movies. It was kind of interesting. This movie, he displayed more dimensions than usual.
He was in the more sympathetic role, so it kind of seemed like a counterpart to Repast.
Yeah, justice for Ken Uehara, the Japanese George Brent, as we've described him.
I didn't feel like the wife was completely thrown under the bus, though.
No, but it's a really brave performance. She's absolutely not vying for easy sympathy, behaving in a kind of boorish manner the first moment we see her. She's constantly just crunching on food. Just normal things that people do, but movies don't dwell on things this way. It's very deglamorizing.
Yeah, it's because she's getting on his nerves. And he seems to fall in love with his co-worker based simply on the fact that, well, she's not on his case. And she also might be able to make him a better lunch.
Well, she likes going to the art exhibits as well.
He's still the same guy who comes home and just says, feed me. He literally says, I'm hungry, feed me at one point.
Yeah, but it's just a deeper look inside the mind of this guy.
What he wants, and what he wants, as opposed to what Satsuko Hara wants in Repast, what he wants is something very, very simple that, however, his wife is not able to provide him with. In Repast, we feel let down because he can't provide all of these extra dimensions that Satsuko Hara would like. Here, somehow this marriage seems even more horrifying. The fact that they decide to stay in this marriage is even more horrifying because what he wants is so simple.
And it's not going to happen.
No. And he never comes to a new appreciation of her, unlike in Repast.
No, definitely not. I don't understand why they're staying together.
They don't either.
It's horrible. It's meant to be. There's no misdirection there, like in the way we interpreted Repast, where whatever they're saying on the surface.
Oh yeah, there's no happy. The fact that they stay together is an unhappy ending. It's believable that the social and economic consequences would be too much for them to divorce.
There's a lot of nice anecdotal stuff in the film as well, with the boarders at their home. And especially I like the painter, who is...
The goofy painter.
Who's just a lot more in touch with his emotions, aware of things than Ken Uehara is, and they have a few talks that could help him, but don't ultimately do all that much for him. And this melodrama that unfolds in the background of a new lodger who has a well-to-do sugar daddy whose wife winds up killing herself. These are the possible stakes. This is what the future might hold for our primary couple. He's probably going to stray again.
Like Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut, he doesn't go all the way. He tries to, but she nips it in the bud. He finally gets desperate enough to try to make a break for it.
It's the grimmest of the Naruse films in some senses.
Didn't it feel like super Sirkian when he was staying with, not his mistress, but it's an emotional affair, right? And he's playing with her little boy, and they just keep pushing this toy truck back and forth in the most monotonous possible way, but they're both like completely delighted by this monotony.
And she keeps talking to him and he's not answering. He's just so enraptured by the act of playing with this kid.
And he also just doesn't want to answer the question.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to acknowledge the reality that he has to go back. It's amazing. It was a great scene and shows you what Ken Uehara can do.
Negative capability.
I'm going to be watching him even more closely in the future.
His persona has a lot of potential, more than we thought. Another great line reading of Isabelle Huppert's in Elle at this ultimate awkward family and friends Christmas dinner gathering that ends with her mother dying after she's a total bitch to her. After she confronts Isabelle Huppert about being a total bitch to her. When the next door neighbor's wife, the devout Catholic, asks her, oh, the mass is on. Can we turn it on? It's almost time for the mass. Huppert is just like, I don't know. Oh, bien sûr. Like, you know what I'm talking about? That line reading?
Whatever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We must turn it on. And I'll just go play footsie with your husband a little bit more now.
That character, too, we didn't mention her at all in our main discussion of Elle, but the devout wife, it's quite an interesting moment between them at the end. She was not unaware of her husband's demons, and she's the one that says, he was a good man. He just had this problem.
That's like the ending of Shadow of a Doubt.
Nobody says Uncle Charlie was a good man in that, and he's not.
No, that's true. They do just say the world, like Uncle Charlie, just goes a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah, but it means a lot coming from this very morally upright woman who is carrying statues of the Holy Family with her wherever she goes.
You don't think that moment is irony?
I don't think so, because she's not saying this was a horrible man who was put here to test my faith or something. She's saying, I love this man. He was a good man. He had something going on with him that only Isabelle Huppert could share with him, and she's happy that he got that before he died.
Yeah, now, why was Isabelle Huppert able to share it with him? Well, because of her exposure to her father.
And she was on her own journey.
Then does that mean that this wife, the only religious person in the movie, is the only one who can really understand the stakes of it?
Yeah, because she has faith in this cosmic drama that Christmas is a part of. All right, well, we'll end on that note. Next week on the podcast, we will welcome in the new year of 2026 with a stellar Hollywood Movies Year by Year episode, Warner Brothers 1933, 42nd Street, and Gold Diggers of 1933.
Ooh, amazing.
Busby Berkeley extravaganza to kick off the new year.